We're going to get started here in a couple of seconds. All right, at this time, I'd like to call the Crystal Council meeting to order. Let's start with roll call, please.
Councilmember Deschler.
Here.
Councilmember Kolb.
Here.
Councilmember LaRoche. Councilmember Parsons.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Here.
Councilmember Dahl.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Before us, we have an agenda. Looking for a motion on that agenda. Olga?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have our consent agenda. I will read that into the record at this time. First item is approval of minutes from the following meetings. October 2nd, 2018, the Crystal Council meeting, as well as the work session from that same date. Then approval of a list of license applications submitted by the city clerk to the city council. That is on file in her office. And then approval of our resolution accepting the following donation, $585.10 from the Crystal Fund for Community Progress. That's for annual planting. Thank you for that donation. That's something that goes to the parks, right? Yeah, okay. Then approval of resolution authorizing application for Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant, and that is for the Becker Park Improvement Project. And then approval of resolution designating city check signers, approval of a resolution amending the approved tree list, and then a special permit for beer at the Lions Valley Place Park for the cyclocross bike race on Saturday, November 3rd. And the same group for Saturday, November 17th and 18th. And that completes our list.
Mr. Mayor?
Pardon?
Sorry, it's not the same group.
It's not the same group?
No, it's just two cyclocross bike race events.
Oh, I see that. Okay. Apologize for that. All right, as amended, looking for a motion on that.
I'll move approval.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Julie. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak during open forum? Nobody? Anybody wishing to speak during open forum? This is different than the public hearing. Okay. We will skip the open forum and move straight to public hearing. Sir, go ahead.
Yes,
Is this related to property, or do you have a different issue?
it's property, yes.
We'll handle that during the public hearing, not the open forum. So we'll start that in a moment here.
What's open forum cover?
Pretty much anything that's not on the agenda. Your item is actually on.
It's not on the agenda.
Your item, I thought, was on the agenda.
Pardon?
I thought your item was on the agenda.
No.
All right. Could you approach the podium then?
Sure.
And when you're done, please fill out one of these yellow sheets.
Okay.
And at this point, state your name and give us your address.
My
And
name is Ray Gruber. My address is 3551 Xenia Avenue North. I've been a resident here for 44 years. What has happened is the last month, first of this month, our car was robbed. My neighbor's vehicles were also robbed. And I have called and talked to Jeff, who in turn got a hold of Stephanie, and I've talked to her, and I've talked to your assistant chief of police, and to no avail. They're telling me that this is pretty much just status quo. We've got thefts going on, and it's something to live with, which I've been violated. Somebody breaks into my car. What's next? My house? I don't feel comfortable. My neighbors They have problems trying to sleep, one noise. So I made some calls, checked in the papers. I'm finding out there's an awful lot of thefts in here. We are registering in the Post paper 10 thefts a week. Well, after my neighbor and myself reported, I look in the paper and our reports don't even make the paper. And I'm informed by the chief of police, this is an ongoing thing. Cars are being broken into. And when I say broken into, they're not, that could be that they're not locked or unlocked, or apps of a cell phone or whatever are unlocking them. But this is an epidemic. And I've kind of looked into it, and I see we have, what do we call it here? JCPP, Joint Community Police Partnership, and I've made calls. I talked to Mike Freeberg, and he says that if you can get the other communities together, there is state grant money that could be issued, and we can get a task force and eliminate this. I've felt safe in this community for 44 years, and now I don't. I'm waking up at 3 in the morning from noises. My neighbors are doing the same thing. This has to be addressed.
Okay. Any other comments? That's it? All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during open forum? Anyone else wishing to speak? All right. Just for the record, when we do open forum, we usually don't respond. We take the comments, and if we decide later, we will address it during a work session. But generally speaking, we do not take action right on the spot. So just being informative on that. So
I'll follow up with Stephanie after this meeting. We talked actually just before this, about this issue that you called about. So Stephanie or I will get back to you about what the next step would be on.
And if you would, well...
Hold on. If you're going to talk, you need to be up front here. You have used, I think, you're a lot of time so quickly, please.
Tried to. When I talked to Mike, he wanted me to follow up with him. So if you would, too.
Sure.
I'm sure he'd appreciate it, and I would.
Okay. Thank you. All right. That will conclude our open forum at this time. And next we have our public hearing. And Jean McCain is here to speak on that. Welcome, Jean.
Thank you. This evening, we're having the public hearing in regard to special assessments. And these special assessments are for properties that have received services during the year, and they have not paid the invoices that the city has sent out to them. The types of services received include the utility charges, which is water, sewer, storm drainage, street lighting, those types of services, administrative citations, garbage and refuse removal, nuisance abatements, weed mowing, tree trimming and removal, as well as false alarm fees. In addition to that, the 2018 certification roll also includes one recertification that was canceled due to a tax forfeiture on a parcel, but now that has been reinstated. Now, all of the balances due for the special assessment roll this evening, they were delinquent as of July 31st of 2018. So tonight we're asking if there are individuals that would like to speak on these certifications to do so. Otherwise, we will move forward with adding the administrative fees to the overall special assessment roll and certifying the delinquent accounts to their property taxes.
All right. Thank you for that. Are there any questions for Jean at this point? Go ahead, Olga.
Not for Jean, but for Ann. I've been speaking with a gentleman, and you know who. So I don't know if the gentleman cleared his account. I think he's still planning to as of today. So would he have an opportunity to do that
I believe
after this
the
vote?
service charge gets imposed on Thursday. So if he has not paid it today but clears it tomorrow, he will still be
Okay,
good.
and he still has to, if he wants to pay by credit card, you said it's
Still has to-
personal, you have to come in
Right.
in person. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, let's move to the public hearing. At this time, I will open the public hearing to receive comments to consider resolution adopting the assessment role for the 2018 delinquent accounts. Is there anybody, I have one person who's filled out a sheet who wishes to make comments, so we'll start there, and if anybody else is looking to do that, please fill one of these out so we know who you are and we know how to contact you. So at this time, Abdiraham Adam.
Hello, my name is Abdi Mohammed, and that's my business partner, Abdurrahman Adam. We own the property of 5203 Angelina Avenue North, Crystal. We bought this property back in November 2017, November 4th. There was an auction in Hennepin County. So there was a special assessment, and we were informed that one also. We knew that $35,000 assessment due to the property was not taken care, and we were able to take over the property, and we put in a lot of money to renovate, and now it's back to code. We work with the city of Crystal. We bring to shape, and we clean it up. There was a lot of work that needed to be done. So we're asking for the city council members forgiveness of past assessment of $35,000. We have done a lot of work to the property, and now it is reoccupied to current to the city code. The property needed a lot of work, and that's why it was not purchased during the auction day because nobody wanted to take the $35,000 assessment. I believe we was brave enough to take those knowing the assessment is coming, but hopefully they told us you can talk to the city members, and hopefully they will do something about it. And that's what we done. We took that risk, hoping the city will understand that we have done a lot of work and hopefully forgive us the $35,000.
All right. Any other comments? Stand by. Council members, do you have any questions for him? This is the property that we did the reassessments of delinquent charges previously that had come off during the foreclosure or the sheriff's sale. And you were telling me, what were they again? Do you know what some of
the property was not well maintained, so the grass was not cut, and there was a utility unpaid, and it was code compliant. I think it was almost a kind of code compliance because it was not to the city code, and we had to bring that to code, and so it was not an easy process.
Could I ask a process question?
Sure.
What's generally the process for this type of request? Do we have a process?
Oh, for an
Yeah, for
appeal
request,
of
yes.
the,
Yeah.
you usually will approve the roll with the exception of this property, and then I come back to you with some sort of resolution.
Sure.
I think that's November 3rd we're required, or November 8th we're coming back.
Correct. Yeah. is
So
that-
there's kind of a timeline that
Right.
that also is involved.
Right. I'm certainly not, in a position to make any.
Right.
Any
And
decision
that's
on this
typically,
tonight, but-
historically, you've asked staff to do more research and bring back more information and try to figure out a resolution.
Right. So a couple things were mentioned, some lawn mowing charges, some code compliance issues, and utility stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Taxes, I think probably taxes was not paid also,
So property taxes as well.
property taxes, and
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think,
Okay. And when we receive that report or the information back, and it's probably what you would do normally, but I'd like to understand what the actual costs
Yep.
were. Right?
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely, a
because-
breakout of the charges.
Right, because
Yep.
sometimes there's an administrative penalty where maybe
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to send a message or encourage somebody to behave a certain way, and there's not necessarily cost associated, but sometimes we did send somebody out to take care of something, and then, there was an actual cost, and that cost is being borne then by, if we were to waive it, that cost would be borne by the taxpayers, the general taxpayers, and we'd have to make a decision if that's something we'd want to do.
Does that make sense?
Yes, we also believe that the city will put in more money if we did not take it in place right away, because right now it's almost a year close to since we took over, and I think we'll continue to stay vacant due to it was open to an auction, public auction, and no one was there to take the property. And we came actually the next day to, they call over the table, so that means if the property was not sold, you can purchase over the counter, and that's what we did. And they didn't accept any mortgage, so you have to pay that upfront, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. So they're coming up with that cost upfront, so that was also another cost that we had to bear with. Okay. But we really appreciate it, and hopefully we just had to come in today and at least say something about it.
Okay, thank you. We have all your information here. Oh, sorry.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Who advised you that the $35,000 fine would be waived? Who specifically discussed that with you?
It was not advised, but this Hennepin County, they said that would be up to Crystal to, you guys have to take that up to Crystal, and hopefully if you guys make they give us a little bit of hope, but it's not, it's a most about it. The hope was just, we can come to the front of the city members and make our appeal. But they didn't say it's going to be for sure, so we knew something was going to happen, but we had the hope, and this hopefully would be a win-win situation for the city and us as well.
And just for clarification, so was someone in an official capacity with the Hennepin County advised you that Crystal would look at this fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you by any chance have a person's name or
No.
Or an organization, anything?
It would be the auction people also.
Okay, and I think that would be important to have that included in this if we're going to look at it to see who gave him advice as well.
So just a side note on that, we had a conversation here at the council level, which related to properties like this that we would be putting back on the roll. One of the points that we made, or specifically I think I made, was to make sure that we were equipping Hennepin County with the information that was coming up, so that somebody wouldn't either over the counter or through the auction buy it without knowing that it existed.
True.
So I think this is kind of an outcome of what we've asked staff to do to make sure that these costs were above board and everybody knows that they may be coming. So I think that's kind of a testimony to staff. So I thank you guys for doing what we asked. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak during this public hearing? Anyone else? Last chance. All right. We will close the public hearing and looking for a resolution on this, excluding the property at 5203 Angeline Avenue North. Any council members? Okay, Jeff?
I'd move that resolution with the exception that you noted.
All right. Looking for a second. Julie?
I'll second.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Next item is our expenditures of $25,000 or greater. We have a few of those I will read into the record. Golden Valley Joint Water Commission for August water costs of $220,810. Health Partners for September health insurance premiums, $94,219. Hennepin County Treasurer Assessors for the second half of the assessment fee, $89,000 even. Para for city and employee required contributions for 10/5/18, $52,859. And Total Control Systems Inc. for the 480 volt power conversion for utility department lift number 9, in case you really needed to know all that detail. That's for $71,306. Total disbursements of $25,000 or greater are $528,195.26. Any discussion on any of these items? Seeing none, looking for a motion? Julie?
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditures over $25,000.
Thank you. Looking for a second? John?
I second that motion.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, item 6.2, we have Dan Olson here. He's going to talk to the council about the approval of site plans for construction of an indoor self-storage at 5702 Broadway. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I have the next 3 items, actually, and all 3 of them relate to this particular property, 5702 West Broadway. I'll just start off with the general location of the site. This, of course, is Bass Lake Road toward the end or the bottom of the graphic, and the property is outlined in blue. This is the former Herzing University site. As you said, the first item here is to approve a site plan review request. Adams French Property LLC is proposing to purchase the property, and then they would build a new self-storage facility on that property. They would tear down the building that's there now. So there's 3 approvals related to this. The first is approval of the site plan. The second is to approve a resolution that would release the 2012 declaration between the City of Crystal and Herzing University, which I'll describe in a minute. And then the third approval is a lot consolidation request. As I said, the property now is vacant. The building is vacant because Herzing has relocated the school. And the proposed use is to construct the self-storage with the associated parking. This is the site plan, proposed site plan. There's a 4-story facility basically in the middle of the property with parking along West Broadway and then parking along the back property line as well. So there's 20 spaces for that would be constructed for parking. Because of our requirements for the numbers of parking, they would also have to, they're also going to be showing on their site plan what's called proof parking, which is you can see along the north property line. They've kind of ghosted in some property spaces there, 22 spaces. So that putting that there, showing that on the site plan is really their way of showing that they do meet the requirements. Those 22 spaces would only be built if and when the city determines that they need to be built, that this parking is not working with just the 20 spaces that they're building. So these are the proposed building elevations. So this is what the building would look like. The top there photo is what it would look like from the south. There's a 1-story part of the building in the back, and then the rest of it is a 4-story building that would face West Broadway. And then the bottom graphic there is the view from the north. You can see that there's some single-family residences along that north property line, which have been there for many decades. As I said, the parking there, I've kind of gone through that. Just it does meet the requirements with the 20 constructed spaces and the 22 proof of parking spaces. As far as stormwater management, there is an existing infiltration basin on the property now, but that's going to be removed. That was built in 2012. And that's instead going to be replaced with an underground system of pipes that will connect to to the existing city-owned stormwater sewer pipes. And then, as always, for every construction project, we also require erosion control techniques like silt fences, inlet protection, and so forth to be put on the property before the building is actually constructed. Landscaping, they're going to be trying to preserve some existing trees. There's not a lot of trees on here. It's a very hard surface property. They're going to be putting some skyline honey locust, which are on our approved tree list, and then we'll also be planting 6 varieties of shrubs. As far as screening, they're removing the dumpster enclosure in the back, and they're not replacing that. That will be any dumpster needs will be inside the building itself. Rooftop mechanical units will be sufficiently set back from the roof, so you won't be seeing those. And should be a photo or a graphic in your packet showing that. Exterior lighting, they're going to be removing a couple of light poles and then replacing them with 4 new poles, and these do meet our requirements for exterior lighting. And then the last site element I'll bring up is signs. There is an existing freestanding sign that Herzing used that will be removed and not replaced. They'll just have signage on the building itself, and they'll get permits before they do that. These are the site plan criteria that we have in our Unified Development Code, UDC. The first is that the site plan complies with UDC requirements, and that is true. The second is that the site plan adequately protects residential uses from adverse effects. 2 things I will point out here. First, they will have screening on the north property line. It's actually already there. It's a 6-foot-high fence that was put there in 2012, and that will help to screen the residential neighborhood to the north from this use. There's also, if you've seen it, there's also a very large stand of vegetation in those backyards of those properties, so that really helps as well. Because of the height of the building, we also had the applicant complete a shadow study, what's called a shadow study, kind of looking at the effects of the shadow on those residential properties to the north. We had them do 2 different dates, kind of the best and worst case scenario. June 20th would be the longest day of the year, and I didn't provide that in your packet, but we saw no effects at all on that date of the shadow of the building on those properties to the north, so that we didn't even include it in the packet. However, on December 21st, which is the shortest day of the year, when we have the least amount of sunlight, you do see some effects there. At 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., some of the portions of the houses are covered with shadow. But then at 10 a.m., noon, and 2 p.m. on that same day, the shadows do not affect the houses themselves. This is December 21st is the worst case scenario, so that would be, staff felt pretty comfortable that was didn't do too much harm to the homes there. What they did was to reduce the impact of the shadow. On that north side, they stepped back the 4th story of the building. You can see it in the elevation drawing, where they stepped it back so it creates less of a shadow. So that was, and they also moved the building farther south. So they really worked with us to try to prevent or reduce the effect of that shadow on the residential homes to the north. So it seems like a good compromise. And here is the shadow studies that are in your packet that I was talking about. So the greatest effects are at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., but otherwise throughout that day it's okay. So. Just finish up with the criteria. The site plan is consistent with the character of the surrounding area. With the exception of the residential properties, the self-storage facility will be adjacent to properties that is zoned and used for commercial purposes. There's been at least a commercial use there since at least 1972, so the neighborhood to the north should be really used to commercial use, and this will be a fairly low impact commercial use in that area. And then the last criteria is just to provide safe conditions for pedestrians and motorists. And we looked at the circulation plan, and our staff did, and also the fire department, and they found it to be adequate, including for fire trucks as well. So, then getting to the second request, which is a lot consolidation. This property is actually 2 platted properties that are under one property identification number. So it looks like one property, but it's actually 2 platted properties. So in order to be able to build over the property line, our city code requires that they consolidate the 2 lots into one, basically kind of removing that property line between the 2 properties. So that's what they've done. They've submitted a plat, which is in your, which I'll show you in a minute, but that really combines the 2 properties into one. Here's the 2 lot dimensions of those 2 lots, and then the combined lot will be about 2 acres, almost 2 acres. So. Which meets our minimum lot size, well over that. Additional drainage utility easements have also been dedicated in the plat, and as you might remember from other lot consolidation applications, there's not a park dedication fee because we exempted this particular application from that in our new code. Because it is adjacent to a county roadway, we did have the county look at it, and they asked if the applicant could provide a 7-foot wide sidewalk or trail easement along there in case the sidewalk is ever reconstructed. So that's a condition of approval of the lot consolidation is to do that, and they have agreed to do that. So, and so that's just one condition that is, as I said. Here is the final plat that consolidates the two properties into one. And then here's the three lot consolidation criteria in our UDC. First, that the consolidation must be in conformance to the comp plan. Because this is it's guided as general commercial, which the proposed use does conform to that. It meets the purpose and intent of the UDC. What I noted here was that the purpose of the UDC is to create regulations to avoid or minimize negative impacts to adjacent properties. And as I noted earlier, we believe that any impacts to that residential neighborhood are fairly small, if not non-existent. And then the third criteria is should create lots in conformance to the dimensional requirements of the UDC. And as I said, this consolidated lot will far exceed our minimum lot size. So. Then the last issue that you're looking at approving is in 2012 is a release of declaration. In 2012, the city approved a site plan for improvements to Herzing University. They did a parking lot and they did some stormwater stuff there. So at that time, we did not require the lots to be consolidated. So we created this. Herzing signed this agreement with the city that the lot would basically be treated as one lot, even though it is actually two. And we wanted to make sure in 2012 that would happen because there's access over the two lots, parking, access, all sorts of things that happen over that property line. So that's the reason for the declaration that they signed. Obviously, with the lots being consolidated, that agreement will no longer be needed, and so the applicant would like to have that removed as off the title of the property. So that's what you're being asked to do is approve a resolution releasing that declaration from the property. Planning Commission recommended approval of the site plan at their last meeting with the condition that you see in the staff report. And staff is also recommending approval of the lot consolidation and the release of the declaration. And with that, I'm available for questions. The applicant is also here too, if you have any for them.
So the only condition is the one for Hennepin County for the sidewalk. Is that correct?
That's for the lot consolidation, for the plat. There is one condition on the site plan, which is our standard one, which relates to them signing a site improvement agreement and providing an escrow to build the parking and the landscaping and such. That's a very standard condition.
John?
I saw the existing building is 33 feet tall. Can you tell me what the new building, how tall that will be?
That will be 45 feet, except, as I said there, on that north side, it'll be stepped back a little bit on the fourth story. So, but it'll be typically 45 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Julie?
The shadow study, you had mentioned December 21st, you did a shadow study?
Yes, for that date, yeah.
Oh, for that date, but you didn't do it on that date?
We didn't do it on that date, no.
I was wondering if you did one last year or something.
No, there's a program that's a very common program that architects use, and you can program what the shadow is going to be typically on December 21st.
Based on the sun.
Yeah, sorry, I should have pointed that out a little more. But.
All right.
My name's Nick Stein. I'm the development manager for Adams French Properties. Scott Carol Lansing from Faber Baker Daniels, our attorney, and Todd Mohagan of Mohagan Hanson, the architects. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to thank Dan for all the efforts he's put in. It's been a pleasure to work with staff to get to this point, and we're excited to move forward with this project. Hopefully, if there's any questions or anything else, I'm here to answer those. I think we've worked through quite a few of them based with staff and then also Planning Commission. So, and to your point about the shadow study, it's all theoretical. So.
Okay. Well, thanks, Nick. Any questions for Nick? All right, John.
I don't have a question for Nick, but I'm a liaison to the Planning Commission. There was quite a few questions about drainage, about lighting, the shadow itself. He was pretty well vetted during the Planning Commission. I also want to say the meeting itself, the initial meeting for the review of the proposal, was postponed a month to make sure that, that the applicant had enough time to be able to look at where the building was going to be placed on the lot in relationship to the existing building and how that was going to affect the neighboring properties. And I thought that was well done as well. So it was not a unanimous vote for the Planning Commission, but I would have to say that it was a strongly, favorable response from the members of the Planning Commission. So it was quite impressive. So thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Thank you.
I have actually a question for John.
Yep, go ahead, Julie.
So for the two people that didn't vote for it, what were their reasonings, you think?
Pardon me, can you say what?
The vote was 5-3, but one person was absent, so.
Okay.
So the two people that voted no, I mean, what was their thinking?
It was just the two reasons were, had to do with drainage, which I think Dan addressed. They were concerned about drainage into those properties there. According to the site plan, that drainage is going to be eased away from the north end of the property and more towards the west. And the other option, the other person just wanted to see a different type of property there. So, I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to vote against it when you have the old Thriftway is now a storage building on the other side. So it's kind of hard to say no. So.
All right. Well, from my perspective, it's nice to see some investment and redevelopment in the city of Crystal. So we tend to be pro-business, and we like to see something fresh and new to revive the area. Storage facility or not, it's going to change the look in that particular corridor. So I'm happy for that. With that, we have, what do we have, 3 motions here?
The first is a motion for the site plan. The other two are the resolutions for the...
So you don't have separate presentations for these following, do you?
I do not, no.
Okay. All right, looking for a motion on the first.
Apparently there's a question from the audience.
Okay, Nick, could you step aside, please? Quickly, please. This is
Yes, my name is Ray Gruber again. Many years ago, I addressed the city council about having added cell towers. And I was informed you could not put cell towers in an area with an airport. And I don't know if you've addressed with MAC.
Is this related to...
With this building being
This
4
building?
stories high and 45 feet,
Yeah,
are
I'm
we
sure
in
this has been
compliance with
approved,
MAC
yes.
and the airport? Well,
It wouldn't hit our desk. It wouldn't,
Huh?
hit this, it wouldn't hit this council unless it was, absolutely.
okay.
Thank you. All right. So we are looking for a motion on the first.
Yes, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'll just hit these one at a
Please.
time. I'm very excited for this. I was actually, I'm not going to say really nervous, but I was nervous about that building, and I'm really excited to see it demolished and gone and never have to see it again, because I think if that didn't happen, that site was going to languish for a very long time, and it was going to get really ugly. And whatever use was going to be attracted to that building was going to be really bad. So I'm very happy to see you. So I'm going to go through
Appreciate the
these.
support.
I would make a motion to approve a site plan for construction of an indoor self-storage facility at 5702 West Broadway.
Thank you, Jeff. Looking for a second. Olga?
I'll second that.
Okay. Did you have another comment, Julie?
Well, just that, I represent the area where you're going to be. And so from a standpoint of aesthetics and pro-business, I'm excited that you're coming there too. But, my vision, I just kind of want to get this out there. My vision for the neighborhood would be more of a restaurant or ice cream shop or a flower shop, something that would bring in people to the city to engage and spend money, not a storage unit. So I just want you to know I'm voting no, and it's not because I'm not excited about your plan. It's that isn't my vision for our community. So, but I still want to welcome you, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it's
And I think it'll be a slam dunk, so I'm not.
It's on the fringe.
I-
It's what, everybody, you have the vision of everything, and we can get to be too repetitive, the same thing. So, and I think that to the point of this is the location is.
Yeah, this will be a nice location for you if you could put just like a little ice cream shop or something. Yeah.
Maybe we can put a deck up on the 4th level and open.
There we go.
Now we're talking.
But I just want to have good, have you feel comfortable and welcome and all that.
Well,
But
we hope that it'll draw somebody
Still
that's going
voting
to bring
no, though.
that to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, we hope so as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
That's a very good point. Olga?
To Julie's point, I hear you. I think it wonderfully diversifies that area, though, because it brings more stability to have diversity of use. So it's a healthy thing, and I'm happy you guys are
Thank you.
here.
All right, we have a first and a second. Are there any final comments? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
nay.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Deschler.
Nay.
Councilmember Kolb.
Aye.
Councilmember Parsons.
Aye.
Mayor Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Aye.
And Councilmember Dahl.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Next item, 6.3, that is, you want to hit that one, Jeff?
Yeah, so I would make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the release of a declaration of restricted covenants for that same property.
All right, looking for a second. Olga?
And I'll second that.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Okay, and number 4 here, I would make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the final plat of IP3AF properties to consolidate 2 lots comprising 5702 West Broadway.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Looking for a second. Olga?
I'll second that too.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Welcome. One question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
When do we open?
I'm sorry?
When does it open?
We would expect probably the fourth quarter of next year.
Okay. When's the construction? When's the ugly building going away?
I'm only not committing to that because we're in the process of deciding internally if we should expedite the demolition permit.
Got it.
So that may come down sooner than, very soon.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
We're
All right.
reserving that right. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those who have concluded their business, it's not rude to leave. So feel free to leave if your business is completed. Next, we have council receiving a presentation on the preliminary 2019 budget and property tax levy, and we will be providing an opportunity for public input as well. Jean is here again. Welcome back to address the council on this.
Thank you. As you indicated, we're going to be doing an overview of the 2019 and the 2020 general fund city budget. So the first thing we really need to talk about is that this is the first year the city has determined it's in its best interest to develop a 2-year budget. So the 2019 and 2020 budget has been developed to focus on long-term planning as well as capital needs. When we started out this process, the first thing we did is we reorganized some of the capital funds to make it easier and more strategic as we're planning out long-term how everything should be structured and what the needs of the city are. So this is truly the first step in developing the overall long-term capital plan. As the overall 2019-2020 budget is developed, it was developed with keeping all of the council goals in mind, because reinvesting in the parks to keep the neighborhood strong really goes back to the overall parks master plan that was developed. And so as we continue with that, the Becker Park improvements also help keep the business area vibrant. We're focusing in on public facilities needs as well as infrastructure needs throughout the city. Now this chart is really indicating the different changes that we're going to go into a little more depth in for both 2019 and 20. So wages and benefits for both years, of course, will be increasing. There was a significant increase in 2019 for the workers' compensation premium. In 2020, there will be 3 elections, so that definitely impacts the 2020 budgets in regard to the amount of staffing it takes to provide the election services. In 2019, the City Council is leaning towards adding an additional police officer, as well as adding additional funding to the park capital budget in order to assist in paying for the parks master plan. There's also an increase for the West Metro Fire Rescue District, and there's an inflationary increase to our capital funds to take care of the different needs throughout the city. In 2020, though, we do recognize the loss of a COPS grant. Now, when I say a loss of a COPS grant, we have to think about it in the respect that we did receive a COPS grant, and it was covered a period of 3 years. And so the last year that we received dollars from that grant is 2019. The revenue summary, it gets a little bit complicated when you're looking at all of these various numbers. However, if you look at the overall revenue for 2019 general fund, overall revenue is an increase of about 1.46%, and for 2020, 4.11%. I won't get into the details here, however, I will explain these different revenue items as we move forward. So if we look at a projected property tax increase for 2019, that equates to about $144,470 for the general fund. We have a reallocation of state aid revenue. Essentially what this is that we have a street construction fund, and we reallocated property tax dollars and state aid revenue, so it's a wash. Special assessment revenue, that is decreasing as different special assessments are paid off. There is an increase in the police and fire pension aid, but this is ultimately a pass-through, as we'll also have, expenditures of the same amount. We did have one pawn shop that is no longer here, and so we do have pawn shop transaction fees that will see a reduction. A recreation and department as well as community center, they are predicting additional revenues based on additional programming that they're planning to do in 2019. In addition to that, there were some miscellaneous type revenues where we were projecting some increases, and then the administrative transfers also reflects a small increase. On the expenditure side, as you'll see, 2019, overall, we do project a 1.46% increase in expenditures, and for 2020, 4.11%. And as we continue on to the next slide, we'll go into the depth as to where these increases are projected. However, if you look at this expenditure summary, you'll note that if you look at our police and fire or public safety in general, that is one of the primary focal points of the community, and it's really important that the resources are directed into that area. So in 2019, there are wage and benefits increases in the amount of $346,000. For 2019, elections only sees a $12,500 increase. However, as we move into the 2020, you will see a significant difference there. There's also some decreases in expenditures. In 2018, the website upgrade was completed, so we do see a reduction of $35,000 there. Under administration, we have different service contracts we were able to reduce in 2019 for $32,500. Legal services, with the end of the comprehensive plan updates coming forward, we were able to see a reduction of $27,000 there. The IT reallocation cost is due to the creation of internal service funds, which does it positions the IT fund in a better way in which all funds of the city will be allocating resources towards our information technology area. West Metro Fire District, there was a $62,000 increase there, and that's primarily just inflationary costs and things that they needed there. Street maintenance, we needed to increase our salt budget. Recreation did see a small increase, and then we also had a reallocation in our city building fund, and that was also due to the creation of an internal service fund. 2020, we do see the projected property tax increase. a reduction because of the COPS grant being over. We also are seeing the end of the deed grant for our cadets. We are seeing an increase in building and electrical permits in the amount of $17,000. And once again, because of adding a police officer, we will see an increase in police and fire pension aid, which is a direct pass-through. We're seeing projecting an increase in fines of about $15,000. Recreation and Community Center are once again looking at their overall programming, and so we are recognizing increases there as well. For the 2020 budget, as far as expenditures are concerned, once again, we do have wage and benefit increases. And you'll note for the election staffing, due to the 3 elections that are going to happen in 2020, we do see a $114,000 increase. The decreases are projecting is under professional services for finance, as well as additional decreases in service contracts for administration, and then the final completion of the code updates for legal. We are projecting a small increase for the fire district, and then some additional miscellaneous increases. Overall, if you look at the overall levy summary, I think it's important to note that we do allocate property taxes in different ways. A portion of it does go into the general fund. In 2019, we'll have approximately $9.7 million going into the general fund. The Economic Development Authority does levy almost $83,000. And then for all of our capital improvement funds, we have about $1.3 million directed towards that. With the capital improvement funds, we feel it's important to show a breakdown so that people understand how their property taxes are being allocated to capital. There is $585,000 going towards buildings and $85,000 going towards fleet replacements. We have $159,000 going towards information technology. We also have a police equipment revolving fund, which really, provides different capital equipment and things of that nature to our police department, and that's $155,000. On park improvements, we do see an increase there. However, I'll explain what these increases mean and why the schedule looks so funny here in a minute. But park improvement will receive about $248,000. Street construction, $110,000. Now, as you see, the top part of the slide shows some areas in pink and it has the label of internal service funds. We did reallocate capital funds from the PIR, or Permanent Improvement Revolving Fund, to better track, monitor, and strategically plan for all of these other various funds and directives. Looking at the overall tax rate calculation, tax rate calculations, you have to start out with what the overall tax capacity of the city is. Now, this can be very confusing as an individual is trying to figure out how in the world do I figure out what my property taxes are going to be. There's also something called fiscal disparities, and that's where you see the area-wide contribution and area-wide distribution. Fiscal disparities were created because you do have some communities that are more bedroom communities and other communities where they have a significant amount of commercial industrial property. And commercial industrial property, they will pay more in property taxes than what a residential residence will. And so these fiscal disparities tend to try to even out how all of the growth and the taxes are distributed, essentially. So the City of Crystal has about a $1.2 million contribution to fiscal disparities, and they receive back about $4.5 million. So what this means is that when you look at this overall levy that the City of Crystal has, it's a little bit different as far as how it's distributed. So you go through all these various tax calculations, and in 2018, the tax rate was about 50.42%, and for 2019, we're projecting a slight reduction down to 49.91%. We do not have the final, rates for the county, school, and other taxing districts at this point. However, when we come back in December, we'll have, some pretty good numbers to share with you. Now, what is the impact on residential homes within the city? The average home value in Crystal was about $196,000, and so the taxable market value equates to $176,400. Some additional calculations, of course, I'll go into that. So if you look at only the city's component of the overall property tax bill that people receive, on a $196,000 market value home, the 2018 property taxes were about $889, and we're estimating 2019 to be at $919. So that means about a $30 increase for the year. There's other, estimates that are laid out there for you. If there are questions, I'm happy to address those as well. And now tonight, we are just giving the opportunity for the public to provide input on the overall general fund budget. And on December 4th, we will come back and we will present another overview of the budgets, and we will be asking the City Council to adopt the final 2019 property tax levy as well as the 2019 budget, and we'll be asking them to accept the projections that have been made for the 2020 property tax levy and budgets. And with that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
Questions from the council?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much for making this easier for public and your council members to understand. When I started on this council 4 years ago, I was handed a stack like about this big of all of the city budget, and it was incredibly difficult to understand. The council would go line item by line item and decide what they would strike out. So at this point, and having you here, this is their second year, I think, right? We have achieved so much transparency simply by making it streamlined and easier to communicate to the citizens. So thank you so much, and thank you to the council members here who worked very hard to bring this about for our citizens.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other comments? Questions?
I have to concur with Elizabeth because those budget documents were overwhelming. You kind of go home and cry looking at them. So this has been really a nice change of pace. And I want to thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it for the council. We are going to do a public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to give any input on the budget as presented? Is there anybody wishing? All right, step forward. Please state your name and your address. And
North, 6700 60th Avenue North, Mayor, Council. My question, which would actually be directed to Mr. Can there, would be, I have noticed that the appreciation of the properties has gone up, and it may become extraordinary. Is it possible that there are circuit breakers that will keep that amount lower and not follow directly the market? Do you follow the question? And thank you.
I was just going to talk about pie. So
all right, why don't you give it a shot, Jeff?
So here's as Elizabeth mentioned, kind of you get here for the first time and you're trying to absorb all this stuff and trying to understand it. And the only way I was able to understand it was after I watched this video about pie. But it makes so much sense, right? So we talk about pie, and let's talk about pie in two separate ways, right? We talk about the pie itself and how big the pie is. That's the growth of the levy, right? So I think we're looking at 4%. The pie is 4% bigger next year than the year before, right? So the pie is going to grow. Now your slice of the pie, how much you pay, right, is determined not necessarily by the appreciation of your individual property, but it's your individual property relative to everybody else's property, right? So in a theoretical world, that would never happen. If everybody's house appreciated by 100%, everybody's house doubled in value next year. And so everybody had the exact same increase. And
The average of tax capacity.
and it was doubled. Don't throw terms at me because now you're confused me. But I'm talking about pie slices, right? So if everybody's property doubled, right, in value, your slice of the pie would be exactly the same as it was the year before. So just because your house appreciated or your property appreciated, whatever percent, there is actually very little correlation between that level of appreciation and how big your slice of the pie is. What happens, though, in reality, right, is that not everybody's properties don't move at the same time. So this house down the street is going to go up a little bit more. This one's going to go down a little bit more. That commercial area over there is going to grow at a huge rate, or maybe it's going to grow less. And everybody's slices of the pies are growing bigger and smaller over time. And so in a scenario, what we've seen historically is that over the past few years, and there's some really great charts that John has that at some point hopefully we'll see again, but you can see that historically over the time when we went into that bust cycle in 2008, the commercial and industrial properties ended up they had bigger slices of the pie, right? And then as the economy recovered, their slices ended up getting a little bit smaller as the residential ones got bigger and went back to where they were. And so now we're normaling out to a place where things are growing at a more kind of regular pace where everybody's kind of growing
In a normal way.
in a normal way. So it's more like the hypothetical scenario where everybody's slice grows proportional and then they all end up at the same. Then see it. I lost it at the end there, and I had it, but but it has to do with you're seeing a more normal growth where it's if all of your neighbors' houses appreciate at approximately the same rate, then your slice of the pie is not going to get out of whack with. So what I'm saying is, as the tide rises, all the boats are going to float to the same level, because my house is going to appreciate as much as yours did. So even though they both went up, what we probably think are obscene numbers, it's happening all over, and so it's not happening in a disproportional pocket type scenario where you would get into a place where you'd see a big impact to yourself personally, as if for some reason your property or your neighborhood was moving in a different direction than everybody else. If that neighborhood was, for some reason, I don't know, we put a big skyscraper out in front of it and it doesn't get sunlight anymore and those houses started to depreciate a whole bunch, then your slices would get smaller at a faster rate than everybody else's slices. That help at all?
Relative impact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry. A lot of talking about pie, but that's the only way that I was able to.
Does that help answer your question?
So that's sort of the relief valve, is that as things grow relative to each other, you're not going to see a situation where because your house appreciated X percent that then your personal.
My suspicion only falls from watching the Silicon Valley and out in California, and there's horror stories out there. Thanks, Mayor. Council.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, we will close the public hearing. There's no action on this.
Nope, there is no action. If I could just say one more thing. It's just always funny to me because you get into campaign season. I love campaign season because then everybody goes out and makes up whatever they want about the truth. When you talk about transparency, this is something that's been instituted in the last few years since this council came in, that we've added additional opportunities for people to weigh in on the budget that are over and above what's required by law and over and above what's done in neighboring communities. So when you look at from that buzzword of transparency standpoint, this council has taken a lot of steps to make the budget much more accessible and transparent for people who want to have that opportunity to weigh in on it.
Very true.
May not be what you read on the flyer that gets put on your doorstep, but you should double check that with reality and the facts.
All right, when it comes to what are we doing, why are we making all these changes, I just want to say a few words about that. I think if you've heard me on Mayor's Minutes, you've heard me talk about us becoming a debt-free city. And that's been something that's kind of taken about 6 years to kind of put into play. a lot of the stuff that Gene talked about who we are as a community. We're primarily homes. We are a bedroom community. We don't have a strong commercial neighborhood to draw taxes from. So consequently, we're unable to raise a lot of levy from retail, commercial, industrial. So it has to come from single-family homes, which is, you know, all of us, our neighbors, myself, everybody else on the council. And some of the things Gina also talked about was our local government aid and our fiscal disparities, and those are things we rely heavily on, that we get subsidized from other cities and from other areas of the government. And with that, that puts us on a kind of a different financial philosophy, I would say. We are not like the United States in that we have unlimited growth potential. We are fully developed. Any of our growth is going to be redevelopment, or it's going to be, mostly redevelopment itself. So when we're in a different type of, when we're in a restrictive growth pattern, it's really hard to handle debt when we're receiving a lot of assistance, so to speak. So if we were growing at a rate like some of the further communities outside of the metro area, we would be able to grow in and have an easier time dealing with debt. But as it is right now, when we look at the debt in our accounts, we're paying about 1/3 interest and 2/3 towards the project that we had just accomplished. So the way I like to present it, it's, you know, we spend $1 to the bank and $2 to the project. And those are only for projects that we finance. So we're trying to get away from that, and we're trying to use every single dollar that comes from the taxpayers to be part of operations, part of our capital improvement, part of our Mark, what's your word? Infrastructure. Thank you. So that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing. And it's kind of a process. When we get rid of debt, we actually have to start saving for the long term. So the phrase goes, we are replacing debt with long-term planning. And going from debt to long-term planning, it's very painful because you actually have to save. And a lot of our activities of wanting to have a new building or have new roads or something has to be funded and has to be saved for. So we are kind of moving into that period right now. Long-term planning that you have seen is our master plan for the parks. We have a 20-year park plan, and we are starting that plan as we speak, and we are going to do a little bit of that plan from the get-go. But when we're done with this first year or 2 years on that project, we're going to move into a saving phase for the parks. And you're not going to see a lot of park improvement for a few more years until we're able to save more money for those things. And that's kind of the mantra, and that's kind of what's behind moving these accounts around so that we can take a look at a department and we can see the full picture of the department. We don't see all the capital improvements in one pot or one account. So that's kind of some of the nuts and bolts behind, without getting into too much detail, without getting to too many numbers as to what we're up to. That's it. So I guess with that, we will move on, since there's no action on that item, and move on to 6.5. 6.6, excuse me, that was 6.5. And we have our attorney, Troy Gilchrist, here to talk about chapters 10 and 11. Welcome, Troy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is a second reading and consideration for adoption of chapters 10 and 11. These are chapters that are before you combined in this way because chapter 10 deals with general licensing application requirements, and then chapter 11 gets into the specific business licensing requirements. You've seen this at multiple work sessions, and this was before you for a first reading on October 2nd. And so, as I mentioned, it's before you for second reading and adoption this evening, if you're so inclined. And then also before you is a resolution authorizing summary publication if it's adopted. And then also, one of the directions council gave with respect to Chapter 11 was to remove the penalty provisions that were in there and to instead make reference to Appendix 4. And so what you have before you again this evening is a resolution amending Appendix 4 that just supplants the references to the penalties for license violations from Chapter 11 and then moves them over into Appendix 4. And of course, the purpose behind doing that is that if you, in the future, the council wishes to make any adjustments to that, it's an adjustment by resolution rather than having to go through the whole ordinance amendment process, 2 readings, 30 days, effective date, all that procedural requirements. So again, you've seen this a lot, so I won't go into further detail, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none. Julie?
I'll make a motion to approve amending chapters 10 and 11 of the Crystal City Code related to the general licensing requirements and requirements for certain businesses.
All right, thank you, Julie. For a second. Jeff?
I'll second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Second item?
Should we just keep going down
Sure,
the list?
go ahead.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And a motion for a resolution approving summary language for publication of ordinance number 2018-05. And a resolution inserting administrative penalties for licensed businesses.
They're separate actions.
Oh, they're separate, okay. Never mind, sorry. So the first one then.
I'll second
Approving
that.
summary language.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Julie and Jeff. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
All right, I'll make a motion for a resolution inserting administrative penalties for licensed businesses in Appendix IV, which is Roman for 4.
4. Very talented.
That's why I had you do it, because I didn't.
Thank you. Looking for a second on that one.
I'll second.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 6.7, this is a resolution for the 2019 fee schedule. Jean is here again to address the council.
Thank you. The City Council, as part of the overall budget process, has been reviewing the fee schedules and looking at all the various fees for what's being charged to ensure that the cost of services are being recovered. Over the past few years, the City Council is also really taking a hard look at all the various fees to not only ensure the fees are fair and reasonable, but also to restructure and eliminate some of the other fees. Now, all of the fees that are being proposed within this fee schedule have been incorporated into the 2019 and 2020 budgets. So the City Council is asked tonight to adopt the 2019 fee schedule and then to accept the 2020 fee schedule. The final adoption of the 2020 fee schedule will, of course, come back to you next year.
All right. Thank you, Jean. You got a question?
No, I just have a comment. I'm not sure what happened here, but that's worse. Like,
No.
As far as the size?
yeah, that's way harder
Yeah.
to read than the other ones. So if we could try it again.
We'll get that corrected.
And, yeah, because that's,
We have 8
Or-
council members
or just put magnifying glasses on everybody's desk, something like that.
and mayor, so.
They sell reading glasses at the dollar store.
All right, so no additional comments on this, no questions. Thank you, Jean. Looking for a motion on this?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Olga.
And a motion to approve the resolution adopting the 2019 fee schedule
And accepting
and
the,
accepting the 2020 fee schedule.
awesome, thank you. Looking for a second?
I'll second again.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, we have John Sutter here to talk to the council about a repurchase opportunity. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Adams, council members. This is one of the surplus property lot sales that we've been working on this year. Previous infrastructure work at this site, 2949 Yukon, infrastructure work that the city had done, storm sewer, sewer service construction, things like that, showed there to be clay soil in the area. We did do one test drilling and just observed the soils, didn't take them to the lab or anything, appeared to be clay, consistent with our knowledge of the area. We proceeded with the sale of the lot to Novak Fleck, a builder, for $74,000 on September 4th. They began excavating for the foundation for the new home on September 27th. They discovered organics and some debris mixed in with the clay. However, firm clay appears to be located about 11 feet below grade, or about 5 feet below what the footing depth would have been for the full depth basement of that house. The builder has stated their opinion of the cost to correct is a total of $60,000, about $48,500 to excavate and haul away the bad soil and bring in clean fill, and about $11,500 for the additional depth of the foundation needed to get down to that firm clay. The builder has requested compensation for the additional costs or repurchase of the lot by the city. Our opinion is that the correction costs may be overstated, and the primary reason for that is that the builder got non-competitive quotes from its own subcontractors, so we don't know if those really are the best prices for that work, especially when it comes to the soil correction, which is the biggest part of it. So, why repurchase the property? Well, we now know the lot isn't worth what the builder paid for it. Putting a lot back on the market with the new soils information is the best path to discovering the correct price of the lot. Repurchase would be structured so the city gets its cost back. We would be made whole. Think of it as stepping into the time machine back 2 months ago before we sold the lot. And also it would avoid a potential lawsuit by the builder. Now, the purchase agreement does have an as-is clause, but if challenged, we're not sure how a court would ultimately rule in a situation like this. So why not just pay the builder instead of repurchasing the lot so they can go ahead with the house? Well, again, we don't know if their subcontractors' quotes are fair competitive prices. And other solutions, for example, pilings or helical piers more specifically, are likely to have lower costs, perhaps roughly half of the cost quoted by Novak Fleck. That would preserve much more of the lot's value for the city. The staff recommendation, therefore, is to repurchase the lot for $70,000. The builder, again, paid $74,000. That $4,000 difference we feel is a fair price, given the facts and circumstances, and also to ensure that the city will be made whole. And then if you do proceed with the repurchase of the property, then after that is done, we would immediately order soil borings and lab testing from a soils engineer. We would then put out a new request for proposal packet to builders with the new information. We would try to get proposals from builders in around the 13th of November, and we would have a public hearing on the lot sale, assuming we get new proposals, on November 20th. I've spoken to a couple of different builders. They are hungry for lots, as you know, and notwithstanding the soils, as long as we have more current information, we would expect to get some proposals on this lot. And they may want to try to start construction yet this fall. However, it may be delayed to 2019. It just depends on the builder's schedule and so forth. So with that, staff is recommending or requesting that you adopt the resolution approving the repurchase for $70,000. However, that amount is just our recommendation. The council could certainly move to authorize a different offer. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions from the council? John?
So when you talked about other builders, was Novak Fleck, were they part of that conversation, or is it?
These were, no, sir, these were other builders.
They're other builders, and so Novak Fleck has no interest in this lot whatsoever unless we pay what they're asking us to pay in terms of correcting the lot for them.
Well, I guess I don't know that. I haven't asked them whether they would intend to submit a proposal with the new information. I guess I haven't really thought about that. If they were to do that, I would I don't know how I would
you'd
advise you
react.
to respond to that
Okay, thank you.
proposal.
All right, go ahead, Jeff.
So we had a spirited discussion about this topic last week, Thursday, right?
Yep.
At our work session. I think I made my overall opinion fairly clear at that, although I did come around on the final action. This letter here, though, from Novak Fleck, did not help their case and is actually really, really irritating to me because there is no such thing as relinquishing a lot back to the city. Should we go forward with this, and I'm still leaning towards voting for it, it needs to be with the understanding that I think a persuasive argument was made for why we would take that action. This letter reads as if that was some kind of checkbox option they had in their contract, that you just find something you don't like on something you bought and you just get to give it back. And that's not how it works. And I'm really irritated by reading it. The driving force, the driving reason that I have behind agreeing to this at all is because I think ultimately this is where we're going to end up, is that we're going to end up stuck with this property again, and we're going to have to do something with it. And I'd like to do it in the most cost-effective manner possible for the taxpayers and our residents. I don't want to go to court over it, and it's really kind of the only reason why I am interested in going through this at all. That letter, man, let me tell you what.
Okay. So, John, go ahead.
Are you ready to take a motion on this, or?
Hold on for a second.
Okay.
I'm just going to make a couple comments. I was probably one of the more critical people on the price. I looked at it as an as-sale cost, and we are sitting with a transaction that is complete and done. And there seems to be, in my best estimation, about a $30,000 difference that from where we stand right now to where we would be if we paid $70,000. That we would be losing from a position where we are right now at the end of the day. I would be more interested in kind of taking a lesser approach to it. There's nobody here on the council that doesn't know my opinion. I was looking for about $60,000. I think that's a way where we share some of the responsibility of the contract. I think both sides have some attorney risk through this process if they were to move forward on that. But in a contract like this, as is, I don't think we are required to take the whole hit based on something that was sold in good faith. And I think that's probably the key thing, is the good faith. We had no idea that there was vegetation in different areas of that clay. So that's my 2 cents worth. John, did you want to do a...
It's just a comment, and I'll make a motion. It's a nice lot. I think eventually there'll be a nice home on it. I think it's best if we take the lot back and work with other builders that are interested in putting a home on it. So, with that, I make a motion to approve the resolution for the repurchase of the of 2949 Yukon Avenue North, as stated.
Okay, looking for a second on that?
Well, I'll second it.
All right, Julie?
Okay.
One more comment. Doing the $60,000, just from my perspective, doesn't preclude us getting it back quickly and putting it back on the market, because I support that as well, John. So, all right, any other comments?
I just have a
Go ahead.
question. So, John, if we were to take this and say, go with the $60,000 and bring that proposal to them, then they would decide if they wanted to sell it back to us?
Yes.
That price?
Yes, that's correct. In that scenario, whatever action you take tonight, if you authorize repurchase for whatever price that you authorize tonight, The city attorney would draft up some type of an offer letter or some type of an offer proposal that we would send to them ASAP, and they would decide whether or not to accept it, or they might counter. At that point then, if you wanted to meet in closed session to review their counteroffer, the state law does allow you to have a closed session to basically negotiate or to discuss counteroffers and so forth.
Okay.
So that's how the process, my guess is that's how the process would unfold. Either they would accept your initial offer or they would counter, at which time then you could choose to have a closed session to discuss their counter.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to keep coming back to an official council meeting to have these go back and forth?
No, but the final action, whatever, if an agreement or something is reached, that does have to come back to a council meeting.
Okay, makes sense.
Jeff?
So here's the reason why I'm not in favor of that approach, because we're going to end up, at the end of the day, we're going to end up somewhere in the middle, and we're going to be talking about, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and we're going to end up burning through that amount of staff time, lawyers' fees, and other things to basically get the moral victory. So
I'm hoping that won't be the case. When you take 30,000 divided by 2, it's 15. My proposal is recapturing 10 of that to try to avoid that situation. I'm hoping they'll see it as another good faith effort from the city.
And then I do have one other question. This sitting as is over the winter, if we don't sell this within the next couple months, does that mean that it's unlikely that anyone's going to start any reconstruction for quite a while? Because the ground will be frozen.
Well, it really does depend on the builder, and you'd probably be surprised at how many builders are willing to do winter construction, except January is really the toughest month. But they'll work right up to Christmas,
Okay.
and they'll get in the ground even in February or March. It kind of depends on timing. When they do that, they want to get the foundation in before road restrictions come on with the spring thaw in April, late April usually. So it really depends on, does the builder hit the right window of time? What's their schedule? Where are their subcontractors at? Are they available? It's hard to predict. But given the market for new construction in this price range in the inner-ring suburbs, there's certainly demand for the lot. I just can't predict whether the builder would be able to get in the ground yet this year, whichever builder that might be.
And of course, we don't necessarily know that they're going to accept our offer at 70. We don't actually know that, do we?
We do not.
Okay.
Julie?
Is the lot, I have to say I have not driven by it, but is it all dug up and just, is there any kind of danger if kids are playing in there, like a big hole or anything?
Nope. Once Novak Fleck decided that they wanted to ask us to repurchase the lot, they backfilled their excavation.
Okay, all right.
Oh, nice. Okay.
All right, we have a first and a second. I'm going to call for the vote at this time. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kolb.
Aye.
Councilmember Parsons.
Aye.
Mayor Adams.
Nay.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Aye.
Councilmember Dahl.
Nay.
And Councilmember Deschler.
I was wondering. Aye.
And motion carried.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, guys. Next item is 6.9. It is for the 2019-2020 labor agreement with law enforcement. Kim is here to review that with us. Welcome.
Yep, thank you. So this agreement is with our local 56 employees, which are our police supervisors. It is for a 2-year contract for 2019 as well as 2020. It calls for a 3% increase in both years, 2019 and 2020, as well as the language change to one of the items related to wages where the employer is going to pay the cost of maintaining the post or the police officer standards and training license. We'll just have that language rather than specifying a specific dollar amount. And then we also include some benefit change to insurance and employer contributions for 2019, sharing in the cost of the increase, and the premiums are listed in your information there tonight, as well as a reopener for 2020. We did include a slight increase to the cash benefit if an employee cashes or opts out of health insurance coverage to go up to $75. And we altered the overtime language for police lieutenants to allow them to cash out banked comp time that they may earn throughout the year before December 1st, as well as provide payment of overtime for work that they do at the Crystal Frolics. The union has agreed to this agreement, and they have signed the agreement. And the 2019 adopted preliminary budget does include sufficient funds for the proposed settlement, and they are also consistent with wage settlements of other metro area cities, and it is in line with your council direction that we had earlier this year, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Kim. Are there any questions for Kim on this contract?
That seemed like it was so seamless this year.
This is our first contract, and we have 3 contracts, so we have 2 more to negotiate.
Oh, okay.
Don't jinx it.
All right, any other questions? Looking for a motion on this item? John?
Make a motion authorizing the executing of the 2019-2020 labor agreement with Local 56.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second? Julie?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And you can continue.
Okay, so the next one, this one, it is not a contract, but it relates to the non-represented employees, those employees who are not in a bargaining unit. And we would like to ask for 2019 wage and benefits for those employees. It is consistent with the contract you just approved with Local 56, calling for a 3% wage adjustment, as well as the same employer contribution towards health insurance. Again, the 2019 proposed budget does have sufficient funds for these wage and benefit settlements, and we do have a long-standing practice of providing the same benefits for non-represented as we do for represented employees. And we recommend approval of this.
All right, thank you, Kim. Any questions from council? Seeing none, looking for a motion? John?
I make a motion approving the 2019 wage and benefit adjustments for non-represented employees. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Members opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution awarding the contract for the 2019 sewer lining project. We have Mark right here to talk to us about that. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening.
Did you get your homework in late or something?
Did I what?
Why'd you have to go last?
So I was walking up here laughing, saying we're saving the best for last, talking about sewers.
Sewer
How
line,
ironic.
yeah.
That was the best I had. Two council meetings ago, you approved the plan specifications order the ad for bid. Again, the project is basically lining the sanitary sewers in the phase 14, which is North Lions Park area, as well as a section of storm pipe down in the Brownwood neighborhood. We opened bids on the 9th. The prices are there before you. In Situ Form Technologies, who is actually the contractor that last worked in the city doing the same work, was the low bid at just over $436,000. We have $600,000 in the budget. The engineer's estimate was $530,000, and we've never had 7 bids received for this project ever. So clearly, there's quite the market out there. With that, motion before you is to approve the resolution awarding the contract to In Situ Form.
All right, thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark? Go ahead, John.
I just have a comment. One of the contractors is someone I'm familiar with, so I have to recuse myself from this vote.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion on this. Holga.
I'll make a motion approving the resolution awarding the contract for the 2019 sewer lining project.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second.
I'll second again.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. It's really nice to see a little competition bring down the cost. We haven't seen that for a while, so it's refreshing.
7 businesses want to reline sewer pipes.
That's right. All right, we do have some announcements. Crystal Business Association is meeting Wednesday, October 17th at 8:30 a.m. And the location is the Near Food Shelf on 5209 West Broadway. The League of Women's Voters is holding a Crystal City Council Candidate Forum on Thursday, October 18th at 7 p.m. That's here at Crystal Hall. Crime Prevention Board is hosting a domestic violence prevention presentation on Thursday, October 25th at 6:30 p.m. And that is at the outreach office, the neighborhood outreach office in the shopping center at 227 Willow Bend in Crystal. Metropolitan Airport Commission, the MAC, is holding a public meeting on Tuesday, October 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Crystal Community Center, taking public comment on the environmental assessment worksheet in process for the right sizing of the Crystal Airport. So if you have opinions on the size of the airport, that's your meeting. General elections on Tuesday, November 6, 2018. Polls are open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. The next Crystal City Council meeting is on Thursday. It's the first Thursday council meeting we've had in my memory. That's for November 8th, 7 p.m. at Crystal City Hall. So a Thursday council meeting. And city council meetings and work sessions are open to the public. Current and previous meetings are available for viewing and listening on our website, www.crystalmn.gov. That concludes the written announcements. Are there any from the council that we have? No?
I know, nothing I can think of.
Sometimes we go on for 10 minutes on announcements. John?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Looking for a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, Julie. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next month.